Good afternoon, everyone. It is 2:15, so I'm going to go ahead and get started to be respectful of your time. So I'm excited to see so many people here. I know there are a lot of really good sessions going on right now as well, so thanks for coming to mine. My name is Kristen Landis. I'm the Director of Technology in North Penn School District, and North Penn is in the suburbs of Philadelphia, so we're in Montgomery County. We are one of the largest school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. We have 13,000 students. Approximately 2,500 employees in our district. So a lot of constituents. We also have a digital learning program that provides devices to all of our students K through 12, mostly with Chromebooks at this time. So I'm going to share my story of how we came to decide on ClassLink as our single sign-on portal. ClassLink is not paying me to do this presentation, but I do absolutely love their product, and I'd also like to introduce Gail. I'm going to get her Dinkelkamp in the back. So she is from ClassLink, a rep from ClassLink. So if you have any more specific information that you'd like at the end of the presentation and you want to connect directly with the vendor, you can reach out to Gail as well. I have her email in my presentation at the end. So most of what I'm going to do is show you a lot of the live features as well, but certainly open to any question and answer along the way, or stop me if you have something that you're wondering about. So you can see the bit.ly there. I'm also going to tweet out the bit.ly at the end of the presentation, so if you don't have time to write it down, you just want to kind of sit and watch, you can grab it later. It has most of the resources I'm going to show you, at least there are screenshots in there for you to refer back to. So one of the things that we were looking for in 17-18 was a product or a portal or some way to create one place where we could house all the resources that our students have. We knew we were in a one-to-one program in our middle schools. We had probably 26 different curriculum applications at the time that we were trying to roster manually. So exporting spreadsheets by class and by student, by teacher, importing them into the products. And as you all know, we get new students every day, and so those were never exactly accurate. So we were struggling with that, and at the end of 17-18, the woman in my department who was doing that work announced that she was going to retire. So as I'm sure you can all appreciate, you know, we're all asking to do more with less. So we were trying to figure out, okay, how can we find a solution? Why can't this be automated? So that was really one of the reasons we started to look for a product to help us out with all of this, because it just was so time consuming to manage We were also looking at the time to do some re-imaging and get rid of our redirected folders. I don't know if anybody has redirected folders for your Windows machines. We had a lot of Windows machines throughout our district, and it was slowing a lot of things down. They weren't working exactly correctly. They were hard to maintain. So we were looking for a way to create some kind of desktop environment that we could customize by curriculum area or grade level. So we had, some pretty big ticket things we were looking for. The other thing that we were looking for is moving from H drives, like mapping home drives on our Windows machines, to the Google environment. So we are a Google district. We're actually a Google reference district for Pennsylvania. And we decided we were going to go full with the Google platform in 15-16. So we wanted a way for our teachers to easily move all their files from their home directories into Google. That wasn't a daunting environment, which felt like a daunting task to a lot of people. We were redesigning our storage area network. We didn't want to have all these local stores. We have unlimited storage in Google. It just didn't seem to make sense. So I had also heard about this thing called OneRoster. And I was really curious about what OneRoster was. Has anybody heard about OneRoster? Anybody familiar with it? Okay, a lot of you are. Anybody using it right now? Okay, just a couple people. So I have a quick 2-minute video here, which I think is going to explain it a little bit better than I do. But this was, to me, when I heard about this to me was I thought probably the most amazing thing that let me switch this. I'm going to run it from my car because okay. Sorry.
OneRoster is a technology standard developed by IMS Global Learning Consortium. It was created by many innovative industry leaders coming from school districts, publishers, student data systems, learning management systems, and more. Classrooms around the world are fast moving from print to digital resources. These resources can be interactive, engaging, and available on any device. However, a constant and nagging challenge has been the need to manually upload class lists or class rosters into all these systems. These online resources need class rosters to both create student accounts and put them in the right class groups. Soon, every online resource will require class rosters. For too long, school districts and teachers have been suffering from manually creating student accounts one by one. Many websites began accepting spreadsheets of students and their class rosters, but that too became complicated, with every website wanting a unique spreadsheet template. The other drawback is that the student data in these templates is usually out of date minutes after it's produced. Everyone in education knew this was a real problem, and that it was dragging down the learning potential of many online resources. That's why, beginning in 2014, the whole industry came together through IMS Global Learning Consortium, and in the spring of 2015, they agreed to a common set of technical standards to deliver class rosters from student data systems to any other system. The name of the technology standard is OneRoster, and it was created with everyone's participation. The industry came together and agreed on the security, limits to data access, and the technology of getting class rosters from one system to another. Products that adopt the OneRoster technology standard help the whole industry. With OneRoster, teachers skip tedious student account setup processes and get right to the important task, using digital resources to improve learning outcomes. You can help by getting involved and joining the IMS Global Learning Consortium, and by talking to your colleagues in schools, publishers, and technology companies. Working together, we can help ensure all digital resources are instantly ready to use in a classroom. For more information on OneRoster, visit www.oneroster.org.
So, just to clarify, OneRoster is not ClassLink. So ClassLink uses a roster server environment, and so I know that gets confusing for some people, but OneRoster is the technology behind how all of this works. So one of the things that we did is we started talking to our curriculum team about the fact that we needed all of our digital products to be using one roster. And so moving forward now, I work very closely with our curriculum department and make sure that they aren't picking solutions unless it's absolutely necessary that aren't one roster compatible. And so when we started this process almost 3 years ago, there were a lot of products that weren't one roster compatible. So that was a little tricky, but now I would say just about everything we have is one roster compatible. We have a couple that aren't compatible in the ClassLink environment yet. They use a different product called Clever, which some of you may have heard of. Clever is not a fee-based product where ClassLink is. The one thing I would tell you when we were doing our evaluation of which product do we choose, one of the things that was really important to us was data security. And with ClassLink, you have your own roster server in its own protected environment. Clever does not have that same solution. I'm not clear how exactly it works, but they do multiple databases house the data that's uploaded to Clever, so it's not just your data on your server. So that was really important to us as well. As you're starting to think about this, if you want to go this route, I will tell you, you want to start talking to your curriculum vendors about it now, as soon as possible. I think they're getting better, but some of them, it took us 6 to 8 weeks to get them up and running. So some of our products, I'll be honest, year one, we didn't have them up and running until the end of September. Teachers were frustrated, and it wasn't anything to do with ClassLink, it was more this one roster setup piece. So in the school year, the 19-20 school year, 18-19 school year, we launched North Penn Desktop. We were really excited about it. We don't call it ClassLink, we call it North Penn Desktop, so that helps our teachers to understand it's kind of the one-stop shop for everything they need in North Penn. But we say it's powered by ClassLink, so people can understand when they go to the links, why do I see ClassLink in the title? ClassLink is what powers our North Penn Desktop. So I'm going to show you, actually, I like to show these live because you can't really tell from that picture. Here's what our desktop looks like, and it has all these different icons on it, and these desktops can be customized. So right now, this is actually like a management desktop, so we have a different one for teachers. So I can switch to that right here really easily to show you. This is one that we've pushed out to all teachers. And teachers do a lot of different things to customize their desktops, so we push out a lot of things that we want all staff to see. One of the first things that happened is staff would say, well, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't use that. So it was kind of ironic, but one of the things we taught them to do is down here at the bottom, you can create your own folders. So I have unused, things that I'm not using. We taught them to use unused by me, so things that don't relate to them. Because in that very early process, so why I say it's ClassLink 1.0 or Desktop 1.0 is because we were still learning as well and launching this, and so we were pushing things out to everybody, even though not every teacher needs every curriculum rostered app. So ClassLink, I will say, has done so much development as well, so we're really kind of moving forward with the product. But it was really great because it was just one-stop shop. Everything was right there. Now, a couple things that we did when we launched this is we started it, and every time a teacher opened a tab, it opened the desktop. Every time a student went into their Chromebook and logged into ClassLink, it opened up this desktop. And people were not liking that because they were like, it's just too much for me. So we had to kind of take a look at how can we support and help all of our students. So one of the things that we did is we created a feedback button very early on and put that on our desktop, and also a help button. Because one of the things that we realized is when you're pushing this out, you're pushing it out to teacher desktops and student desktops. So like right now with our ticketing system, our teachers can put in tickets, but our students can't. So we had high school students who were like, I can't get into my electronic textbook, and we didn't want those students, because they had a Chromebook, to have to go to their teacher. Their teacher would have to create a list. It was like a lot of work to kind of get the support in the very beginning. So we created a simple Google form that my tech team would get, and then students could fill it out for themselves to say, hey, I need help, here's what I'm trying to get into. And it was a lot quicker for us to be able to troubleshoot that versus having teachers write lists of students who couldn't get in. And a lot of our teachers have 2 or 3 digital products that we have students rostering for. So that was really important for us. We also did a commercial. We have In our district, every month, last Tuesday of the month, we have a television show called North Penn Right Now, and it's 10 minutes about everything that happens in the district. So very early on, I did a commercial for North Penn Desktop and why it was going to be so great, and this was our first version. So we did we tried to do as much publicity as possible to get it out there to people that this was the new way to be accessing any kind of application that you need in a district, anything that has a login. One of the other really great features that it has is that there's what's called a password locker. So for example, we have a couple products in here. If you look through, you can see like Linkit, if anybody's using Linkit. Linkit doesn't have a way for us to do SSO right now, but we can save teachers when they go in there the first time, they store their password in what's called a password locker. And then it just logs them right in as just if they were logging into Linkit. So it's very quick and easy how it works, and people don't have to remember their passwords in there. So that is another nice feature that really helps us for some of our products that don't actually have that rostering yet. So a couple other things that we did. We have a website in our district for all things tech. So we created a whole section on how do you use ClassLink, what does it look like, how do you access different things, how do you figure out all these different parts of North Penn Desktop, because there are a lot of pieces to it. So I probably won't even get to them all today, but that was another way for us to provide a quick resources for teachers so that they could easily learn how to do all these different things that ClassLink allows us to do. The other thing that we did is I'm fortunate I have a woman in my department who wrote this Chrome tab extension, so you can see right up here where it says NP. So because we weren't loading the desktop all the time, people were then like, they didn't have their web links or shortcuts anymore, and they were like, how do I get to this product again? Now the desktop's gone. We didn't want them to have to remember the launch of this link over here, so we just created this little Chrome tab extension. So every time they click on that NP, it automatically pulls the desktop back up for them. So it's a real quick and easy way for people to get right back to what they need without having to remember any kind of web link or anything like that. The other thing that we did, I'm going to switch my profile because I want to show you a couple other things, is on our actual website, we now have an NP desktop link. So the reason for that is we want our students and our teachers to be able to get into this protected environment from home. So now we didn't have to use VPN anymore. We did have a VPN server. A lot of people were VPNing in to get to their H drive, which seemed like a little ridiculous to me. So with ClassLink, we were able to have teachers log in from home with the link for North Penn Desktop. So on our website, that goes right here, and you can see the information there, and then this links right back to the desktop. And it's going to load for me, but typically for students and teachers, we would ask them to log in. So they can log in from any device. They don't have to be on their device that they have issued to them for school. So talked a little bit about the desktop piece. So here's the file piece over here. If you see, if I click down here, welcome to my files, this is the area where we were able to link our school network. So right in here, we were able to put in our home directories and any shared drives that people had mapped to them. So again, one easy place where they could get all of those different resources. Now currently, we're in year 2 of North Penn Desktop, so we're in North Penn Desktop 2.0. So now our H drives are view only, but you can set it up that way because we're getting rid of our SAN. But at this point, it was really easy for our teachers to be able to see, oh, that's what's in my H drive, okay, here's what's in my Google Drive over here. So I could really quickly and easily, that's going to take a second, it's pretty big, drag and drop my files from one location to another, right from there. The other thing that ClassLink provides for us, because we're a Google district, all of our students have Chromebooks, so any students who needed to do anything with Microsoft or opening Microsoft, right, you can do it through Google and it's getting easier, but ClassLink also has a partnership with Microsoft Online. It's not 365, but with Microsoft Online, then I can come in here and I can create new documents. I can create a new Word document, a spreadsheet, or a presentation, or I can upload and open things that maybe were in my H drive. I can open them in that office environment. It's not 100% for a lot of PowerPoint animations and things like that. It's not because it's not the actual same product. But for most of the conversions that our teachers are working on, this is a really easy way for them to go in and have kind of the best of both worlds when they're working on their Chromebook, but they might have to open up an old file before they've converted it to Google or something like that. So that was another piece that was really, really enticing for us and has really been used a lot. One of the things that you can do with the desktop is pretty much put any web link you want on the desktop. So in addition to rostering digital products, we have things like you can see here's our website. Here's the G Suite Learning Center. So things that we know teachers might access from our website, but they're like, oh, I gotta go to the website, I gotta go here. But G Suite Learning Center, right from there, we can take teachers right to that. So it's very quick and easy to create all these different applications in here. And I know this probably is funny to some of our tech people in the room, but when we first launched this, I'm not kidding, people were like, how do I get to Google? Like, I don't know how to Google anything anymore. I know, right? And I was like, what do you mean, how do you get to Google? You just like open a new tab, there's Google. So we ended up putting Google on the desktop, and people were like, oh, that's so great. Like, so anyway, it's kind of interesting because of the analytics now. You can kind of see what things people are using, so that is kind of interesting. But there were some things that we didn't initially put on that we have since decided to put on there just to make it easier for people. So that was kind of our first iteration of it. I will tell you with the one roster, with ClassLink, we had eSchool Plus 3.1 last year. So we were doing an extract of that as a CSV and then uploading it into the roster server. So we were able to automate that process. It's not as beautiful as what we do now because we've switched to Infinite Campus and they have an API, so it's a lot easier. But it's still doable from the eSchool Plus environment. Some of the limitations that you'll have though when you start to go down this road, like we had a couple situations where there were a couple old programs that had shared licenses because they were trying to cut costs. So maybe two social studies teachers are teaching the same thing, but they only bought 30 licenses. So that doesn't work with one roster. You can't like share a license. The other challenge we had was learning A to Z. I don't know if anybody uses that. But do you have morning and afternoon kindergarten, or do you have full day? Okay, so if you have full day, it's not an issue, but we had AM, PM last year, so we had like 42 students, and you couldn't, learning A to Z wouldn't allow that with a roster, you can only have 30, so it was kind of a pain in the neck. But I think what I've really seen in the industry is a lot of vendors are going, oh, okay, one roster, okay, I guess I gotta get on board with one roster. Case in point would be Linkit, again, for us, that's our data warehouse for all of our assessments, and they were not one roster, so we were constantly struggling with how do we get the data in there. And I basically said to the president 9 months ago, well, this was last year, I said, you need to be one roster if we're going to, because we can't, it's every student in our district uploading data, and we're uploading data by course and by class. We're doing midterms and finals online with this product, so we need those classes to be right in there. So they did actually move to one roster, and it's been really awesome. So I would say if you have vendors that you are working with that aren't one roster, you start talking to them about how they need to be one roster if you want to stay with them. Because I don't think it's as hard and as they think it is. They might just not know about it. So the other thing I would share that's a little bit of a limitation or something that you need to configure, and I just really learned yesterday from one of the ClassLink people how to do this better. Co-teachers, depending on your SIS, aren't necessarily identified as the teacher with the class. So a lot of times we might have ESL teachers or co-teachers who also need access to that resource. So there's two things there, again, that you kind of have to work with your curriculum department on, is one, making sure we have enough licenses, because it does then kind of count that as a license. You're not, like before people used to share logins, which we all know is a no-no. So you can configure them as another teacher in that class to be able to get that resource. So that part has come a long way too. So we talked a little bit about the easy access to files. Messaging. This was another piece that we didn't initially kind of go out and say we want a product to do this, but I'm sure many of you, if you're working with technology in your district, you send out that email to all the staff in the district, right? And then you get 50 messages back all about things that have nothing to do with what you sent out the information about, right? and then you're trying to reply to all that. So we created an account called North Penn Information that only certain tech people can send to. Well, and then recently, people were concerned about opening that mail, and rightfully so, because of all the phishing attacks that are out there, right? So it looks like you can't tell that it's coming from a person. So I hadn't actually thought of that initially when we went the messaging route, but the messaging works really great because you can push out messages in real time, you can customize them, and then ClassLink also uses them. So I love that they use a lot of the features that you are trying to learn about when you're starting to use this product. So as you can see here in the screenshot, there's a couple notifications on my desktop where here some webinars are coming, and they send out the notification to you so you don't forget. So I'm on my desktop every single day. And then you can see I have one here called Changing Your Password. So I'm going to go into our messaging so you can see what that looks like. But in that environment, so messaging is located up here, and when I'm in here, excuse me, you can see any notifications that have been posted that are staying there. So this is from my teacher desktop right here. So I'm going to go into this is my admin desktop, and so when I go into the management console, there's a whole area here where I can create notifications. And you can create them on the fly, or you can create them and publish them for a period of time, or you can create them and publish them forever. So right now I'm just going to create a quick one so that you can see today is Fat Tuesday, in case you didn't know. So we'll scroll down there. I can say the start date, the end date. I can link things in here. I can add images so you can see it has a whole editor there. So I'm going to hit save on that. I'm just going to leave it right there. And then I can decide who gets this message. So not only can I push it out, but I can say, all right, well, maybe this is a message that has to go to all the district staff. And right now, you can see in my configuration here, it says role is teacher. So there are other pieces connected to that. But this is actually all of our district staff, support staff, and everybody. We have a separate profile called contractors. The teacher role has to do with your one rostering piece. So we have different profiles for different use cases in our district right now. But if I wanted to push this out to a certain group, let's say students, I could just push it to students. So right now I'm just going to do tenant administrator, because otherwise all the people in my district are going to get this message when they get to the desktop. So I push that message to that group, and then I can say I want it to always show. So I turn that on. I love this piece because now if I go to my desktop, I'm going to refresh, and now you can see that message automatically pops up for every single user, and it will stay there until you if you hit close, it will go away, but it's still there. It's just pinned right there for you. But if I hit refresh again, so tomorrow, if I have it be always on, it's going to show up again for me there. So when we had this big push to change everybody's passwords, I was really annoying to the point where people were screenshotting it for me and saying, could you please take this off my desktop? But we were getting the message across. So they can click anywhere on the desktop and it'll go away. But by hitting close, then there's actually a log in the background so you can see who actually looked at that particular message. So there's a lot of awesome analytics in there as well that can show you about that particular piece. So pushing out messaging has been just really great for us because you can do it really, really fast, or you can keep messages there for a long time. One of the other pieces with ClassLink that the company does is if you look here on my desktop, see where it says ClassLink Academy Webinars? So they run webinars throughout the year, and I love this piece because they're like short webinars that will teach you about the product, and if you can't get to them, they save them and archive them, and then you have a link right on your desktop. If you're an administrator, it gives you the administrator ones. There's a teacher one, so you can push it out to your teachers as well. And so I can go back in here and say, okay, I wasn't really sure about the teacher console piece in my backpack. I couldn't go to the webinar, so it's right here. Everything is just like so fast. You don't have to go looking for things. That to me is huge. When you don't have a lot of time and you're trying to figure everything out really fast, that to me is a really great piece. So I love the messaging. The next piece that I also love about this product is the analytics. So this is a newer piece to ClassLink, and I'm going to hit refresh here. The internet's a little slow. But the analytics provides you down to the user level data on all the apps you're using. So one of the things, early on you could see a little bit of information because some of our apps, you know, we buy all these curriculum apps and then it's not necessarily apparent, are people using these apps, right? So how do we know we're getting our money's worth? And I don't know about you, but in my budget presentations, my CFO is going to say to me, okay, Kristen, how do I know I should be paying $25,000 a year for Discovery Ed, which is one of the products in here. So I'm going to show you, we have, there's a cost piece in here. And this is all part of what of the ClassLink system. I'm not paying extra, it's not an add-on module. So I just have two comparisons here. So you can see we're paying $25,000 for Discovery Ed. We have 1,000 licenses, we license it by teacher. Cost per user right now is $25 because only 387 people have used it this year. And then we look at a product like Wixie, we're only paying $9,000 for it. That one is licensed by student, and we've had a lot more usage of that particular tool. So this part takes a little bit of work to set up because you do have to go in there and you have to say, okay, so let me look a little deeper at Discovery Ed. I want to set up, I can set up my license in here. I can say, okay, how much does it cost? You can put in your PD costs. I don't have that one in this example. What's your subscription? You can also set up goals. So if your implementation percentage was, let's just say, we can put in there that it's 80%, right? Of the staff hopefully are using it. You can see right now I'm at 39%. So it really quickly gives you some really nice analytics in there. And then I can look at utilization by different time periods. So I could say, all right, well, let's just say this school year, I still only have 387 unique users in there. And so when were they actually logging in and using the product? So some nice pieces in the cost module, but I can also go into my apps module. Now I want to do some more specific discovery here. Spell it right. Alright, so I have a whole bunch of apps. That's something we need to clean up in here, but I'm going to go into this one. So you can see how many launches I've had with Discovery Ed. This is showing this school year. Total time spent on it. Average time per launch, 6 minutes. That's not very long, so I don't really know how many people are using this. So if I dig down in here, I can go deeper into here and see, okay, here's some more data. This is one I really like. If I go into top users, one of the things I want to be able to do now this year is say to these people, we're probably not going to buy this next year because we're really not getting our worth out of it. So if I come up here and I say, just show me all of the teachers that are using this product right now. We don't have any parents using it. So I can see here are the teachers that have used the product. This is actually just in February, so I can change my time if I want to say last 12 months, let's just say last 6 months in here. But I can see here's the teachers who've used it, how many times they've launched it, what time they spent on it. And I can reach out to those people and say, okay, hey, what are you doing with Discovery? Let's find a different tool for you that could be more cost effective. So this particular piece, this year we really started to dig in to take a look at all of those apps, and I've trained my curriculum team as well, so my curriculum supervisors, and part of our goal for next year will be to get all of our licensing information in there so we can look at all of our products. Some of our products actually, I think, like Moby Max, I believe has its own sort of analytics piece as well. And it's a little different because obviously all of our data is dependent upon people who clicking on the actual desktop link. So if they're not clicking on it here, then they might, if they're getting into it another way, then that's as good as our data is. Some things people can't get into any other way anymore. Funny enough, because they can't remember their logins, right? Because they've stored them all, or they're all being passed through here. So a lot of the products actually can't get in another way, even with the shortcut, because they won't work anymore. But that piece, they're continuing to develop that, and you can drill down by school, you can drill down by login. So there are a lot of pieces there that I'm sure ClassLink could teach you way more than I can about that, because that has been just like really great for us to be looking at that. So the other piece that is be more critical for us right now is the quick card piece. So here you can see in this particular picture, we have kindergarten kids and they all have their own QR code. So they log into the Chromebook and to ClassLink desktop with that QR code. So in Montgomery County, we had a district right next door to us who had a ransomware attack and shut their school district down for, I believe, 60 days. Like, they were offline, they couldn't use any electronic resources. So of course, it's very prevalent in all of our minds, making sure our kids have secure and safe passwords. And I know in that district specifically, they implemented 15-character complex passwords all the way down to kindergarten. So I know, right? So think about kindergarten kids trying to type something with an uppercase and a lowercase and a special character. So we just started piloting the quick cards this year. We are piloting Chromebooks in kindergarten. Right now we have iPads there, but I think we're going to end up moving to Chromebooks because our Chromebooks are a tablet Chromebooks, so they can flip them back and have them work just like an iPad. But with the quick card, here's what it looks like. So you can see down here's a group of students who are using it. It doesn't store the actual password at all. It's just sort of a pass through, and it's a really easy way for the kids to actually, it uses the camera, it doesn't record anything, so we made sure to tell our parents that. But they show that quick card, it logs them right in. And our teacher, I love how teachers are so creative in helping us to figure out this process. So it was like, well, where are we going to put all the cards? And what if the kids lose their cards? So she put Velcro on the back of the Chromebooks, because each student is assigned one, and they Velcro their little quick cards right back to the back of the Chromebook there to use it. So this particular piece, when she started with the Chromebooks and the desktop, she had them do, I have a little checklist here. I just linked this for those of you. It's kind of more about the Chromebook than it is about ClassLink, but she had them learn how to actually log in with their quick card. She had them do it a couple times. She had them change their icons on the launch pad to make them bigger. So she taught them a little bit about editing. So when I'm on my desktop here, if I click this edit button, I can change the way that my icons look. So you can have square or you can have circles. Some people like circles better than squares. I can make them bigger if I want. So they're bigger. And for our desktop, we have a lot. But for the little kids, it's a little easier for them to see if they're bigger. You can change your font size to be larger as well if you want. You can change the background if you want. The kids love this part. Our students keep asking for, why can't we upload our own wallpaper? So we all know that could be a blessing and a curse at the same time. But you could use a wallpaper if you want to. So you can customize it and make it your own. You can create new folders. When I come back over here, if I hit create, I could do a new app or a new folder. So I can also, as a teacher, a lot of our staff have gone in and created shortcuts now to web links that they use often that aren't ones that we would necessarily push out. So that's pretty easy to do, to add those particular apps, or they can create a new folder and then store all those things that they don't want to be looking at every single day in their particular folder down there. One new thing that's coming this year with ClassLink is they're going to have another area for teachers where teachers can actually, I saw this in the demo, but I can't show it to you because it's not in our particular site yet. Where teachers, if we're using the roster server, which we are, our teachers can actually push out certain icons. So for example, let's say they were going to use Quizlet or Kahoot for the day, but we don't push that out. Typically we push out things that we've purchased that we want our staff to be using. But we've pushed out some other things as well. Like we changed our intranet this year to be all Google sites and so we're not paying for that anymore. So our intranet, the only way you can get to it is through the desktop. So that's really actually increased our traffic this year for the North Penn desktop as well. But the teachers will be able to push out certain apps that they want their class to be able to see, so that it's a little bit easier for them to just access the things they need for the different classes that they teach. That is part of the roster server piece, so if you don't set up the roster server piece, you wouldn't have that. So I wanted to circle back to that just for a minute. For those of you who are interested in the roster server, I didn't show that, but down here is where you go into your roster server. and configure all of the data in there. So there's a dashboard in here so you can see all the data that we're pushing in our district, a lot of different data points that we have active, and we're pushing for different applications. So I had to learn all this and kind of get it set up in 3 months or less. It was a heavy overhaul, but it's certainly doable. The folks at ClassLink are amazing. You will get an implementation specialist that will work with you, and anytime you have a question, you're like, I don't know how to do this, I forget how you showed me how to do this, they can show you really simply how to get in there and do that. So in here, you can see specifically right now, these are the applications that we're pushing through one roster, and we can push them just by school. So if you have certain schools, like we don't buy BrainPop as a district, but we have some schools who have purchased it, so we're rostering it for those particular schools. So you can see in here, I can go in and just select the classes that I need to get that particular resource. So one thing I will tell you, when you start to use Roster Server, you need to make sure that your kids are scheduled. So I came from a different district where we had all of our elementary school kids scheduled in the summer, and in the district that I'm in now, our sports staff who do that scheduling, they don't come back until like the middle of August. So they're off all summer. They're only 2 10-day employees. So they came back and schedules weren't done, so we couldn't roster the kids. So we had to kind of relook at how we do that particular scheduling piece. So it does really, your SIS and that scheduling piece does really drive how you set up all of the different pieces in the roster server. So that's another piece I think that we learned. We didn't know from the very beginning that there was going to be sort of that ripple effect there. But once the scheduling's done and you have the setups in the roster server, you can do that. One other piece that we created, because as you can see, our desktop has a lot of different pieces, and now they're all really big, but so we have McGraw-Hill, we have all different kinds of vendors, HMH, we have lots of different things in here. So we created a crosswalk sheet in Google, and I shared this out at the beginning of the year because depending on how many different products you have, you can see I have 31 different products here. And now you can actually customize ClassLink even more than you could when I did this. We actually have 2 products that we have to actually use the Clever app through ClassLink because they don't work with ClassLink yet, but I'm hoping they're going to come over and see the light. But there were the way vendors title resources and then the way that the app looks is different. So teachers were used to going to Go Math, and they're like, I have to go to Think Central now? That's not Go Math, it's Think Central, that's for language arts. So in the beginning, it was a little confusing. It was a lot of communication about, okay, now here's what you're gonna look for, because there's all these different resources from that particular vendor. I believe now, I did learn this yesterday too, there is a way to customize those icons so they could say social studies or science or whatever you want. I think that there's a way to do that. But this was really helpful for our teachers because, like, as you can see over here, some courses, we have all these courses get Read 180, these courses get Discovering French. So we can get really, really granular with how we distribute that information. Some it's all the kids who are in a certain subject, and some it's just those particular courses. So, and again, this changes as we add more apps and things like that. So, so next for us is we're thinking about going Quick Cards K-2. Right now, we're starting them in kindergarten. They're going really well. One of the reasons for that is because we are going to do a huge overhaul of our student passwords in the month of March, and ask every single student to do a password reset. So as you can imagine, with 13,000 students in the district, this is going to be a really big project, and I'm sure my teachers are going to be really excited about it. But one of the ways that we're able to do it is there's actually a lost password piece, with ClassLink. So if I go back to my desktop, I'm going to log out here for a minute. I'll show you this. So I'm logged out. So I can sign in 2 ways with ClassLink. I have my Google account link, so if I click on Google, it's just going to push me right in there. Or I can use my AD credentials right here on the sign-in page. One of the nice features of using the AD credentials is if they go in that way, if their password expires and they're on a Chromebook, it will tell them they need to reset their password. So that's one way we can do it. So if anybody has any great ideas about how to do this student password reset, we're still trying to figure it out. But one of the things, because those of you who work in the AD realm, you know, like you can't just, once you hit reset password, we're going to do it by group. We're not sure yet. But if I click on help, I forgot my password. So it's going to ask me for my username here. So if I put my username, I'm not going to do this because obviously this will cause a lot of havoc for me right now if I do that. But there are security questions in there that students can fill out. So I'm going to go back into Google. I'll show you this part of the profile really quick. If the students set up the security questions, see, there's my notification. It's really simple, but if I go into my profile here, you can see password recovery setup. You can set up your mobile phone, you can set up an email, recovery email, or you can set up 3 questions. In the management side of ClassLink, you can see how many people have not done this, and you can turn it on for certain groups. So you could turn it on so that all students would be required the next time they log into ClassLink to actually set up their questions. And then that way they can do, I forgot my password. So what we're thinking is we're going to do it a little backwards. We're going to go through a process of having all the kids create their questions with their teachers. We'll talk about that. And then we'll have them give them probably about a month to do I forgot my password and reset it on their own. If they don't do that, then we'll be able to run some analytics on who hasn't done that and then set up their password that way. So it's going to be a big project for us. We'll see how it goes. But there are a lot of nice features there as well for the password reset part. There's also, here's the password locker. So anything that I stored my password in, if I changed my password, this is where I would come in and edit it if I needed to edit a password, because there's no way I can remember all these different pieces in there. So that's a little bit about your profile. I will tell you one thing that my cultural proficiency team didn't really like is, and I did email ClassLink about this, but you can change your image, you can upload a photo, and there's all these images in here, and some of them are not really culturally appropriate, potentially. So there's nothing you can really do about it right now. But most of the kids like to use their own pictures anyway and put their own pictures up there. We haven't really had a lot of challenges with that. But that will be next for us, and then doing some more deep dive work on the data analysis, because that really can be a powerful piece. And then the last thing that we're going to be working on is customizing by department or grade level. So for our facilities department, let's say, there are only certain things that they really need, and there are some other things that we don't have on the generic desktop. So we're going to be looking at, I think you can see when I was in here with the different profiles, I'm going to be setting up different profiles. We're going to have a kindergarten, probably end up with a K-2 profile, right? So when it says switch profile here, I have 2. Most of our people would only have 1 profile, but we'd have a kindergarten profile, which would allow the kindergarten students to only see the apps that kindergarten is using, and then first grade potentially to see those apps. So there's some really nice features built into ClassLink in order to create those desktops and serve those resources out really easily. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information about ClassLink and what we're doing here in the school district. So I wanted to make sure I left time for some questions. And I want to put Gail, make sure you have Gail's email address in mind as well. So yes, question.
Can you explain that Clever versus ClassLink piece?
So Clever is free. It does have the quick card piece. It does not have all of the vendors that ClassLink does. It does not, I believe it does not have all the SSO options either. So if you're using SAML or using LTI, it depends on which method you want to use. And the biggest part for me is that data security piece. So your data with ClassLink is on your own server in the cloud. The data in Clever is on, I forget what they call it, it's like multi-server. So it's not clear if it's with other districts or if it's just multiple databases. That was one of the biggest red flags to us. It does not have the data analytics piece. I know they tried to launch a piece and I think then they pulled back on that. So it's okay. Is anybody using Clever here?
Yeah, I know they're currently rolling out like an impact analytics piece.
Yeah, and I think they're going to charge for it, right?
I don't believe so.
No? Okay, that's what I heard, so I don't know. But those were the main reasons that we didn't choose it, and I don't know, their roster server piece is very different. So I will say we were in a fortunate situation. I think we pay approximately $3 a student for ClassLink. One piece that we're not using right now is the, Gail, what's that called where you can create the accounts? OneSync. So ClassLink just came out with OneSync, which will allow you to use their environment to create your student accounts. We use a different product for that right now because we are pushing back into our SIS, and currently ClassLink does not do that piece. So I'm keep putting a bug in their ear about that. So then we would move to that particular piece of it. Yes.
Does it work with Microsoft SDS? School Data Sync?
Gail, do you know? Does it work with Microsoft?
What work with Microsoft? I'm sorry.
You mean Active Directory part?
School Data Sync for Teams.
The OneSync piece?
School Data Sync for Teams?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah, Bevan would probably be a good resource for. I can ask for that particular piece. We don't use that particular product. I would think that it would. I don't know why it wouldn't, but again, I'm not as familiar with that product. I don't think Clever's a bad product. I know some of my counterparts in the district use it, but I think for all of the different needs that we had, that was the other piece. So we were losing our person, if you remember when I started. So we were losing a person who did all these manual uploads. So for us, it was going to be like, okay, that's going to be somebody else's job now. How do we make it easier for someone else to assume all that responsibility? So we were able to make the case because it was cheaper to buy ClassLink than it was to replace a person. So we had that to our advantage. But I think there are a lot of advantages that, I don't know if anybody else who's using Clever wants to comment on the differences, because I don't use it, so I can't really speak to it that well. Anybody else? No? Other questions? All right, who wants a ClassLink t-shirt? All right, you get one. All right, I got a couple up here. Gentleman in the red shirt, you already asked a question, so here's my sheet. You want to pass those out for me? They're not all the same size. I know. I'm sorry, I didn't get to pick the sizes. But if you don't want a shirt, there's a couple pair of socks up here. So any of our Clever users, can we convert anybody? Huh? All right, one pair of socks. Anybody else? All right. We might have some converters there, Gail. Awesome. Anybody else? Yeah. You pair of socks. All right. There you go. All right. Awesome. All right. Any other questions that I can help people
I think
with?
the extra large. I'm good with that.
I also have some, for those of you antibacterial people, I've got some antibacterial pens. All right, okay.
Save a lot.
There you go. There you go. Remember for anybody else? Antibacterial? All right. Look at that. See, you didn't even know you were going to get prizes. There you go.
I got one large.
All right. Anybody else? No? Oh. Is that what we need? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm here to answer any other questions, or feel free to email me if you have things that you think of or that you want to talk through. Hopefully that it was helpful to you to hear our story about how we came to decide on ClassLink. And I'll be honest, I really do think that of all the I've done a lot of implementations in my time as a tech director, and this is one of the investments that I really think was worth it. It makes life so much easier. Right now we are also doing, I have our curriculum team pushing out a culturally responsive teaching framework. So they've created all these resources. So one of the other things we can do, because they're all web-based, is On the day we do that particular session, we're going to push out a Google site and put it right on the desktop, so it's really easy for people to find all the resources that they need for that PD day. So we do a lot of stuff like that that may not stay on the desktop all the time, but that we can push out for a point in time. We also used it for a climate survey that we did across our district. So there were certain grade levels that we had to push it out to for that. So when you sync your Active Directory environment, you can either sync Active Directory groups or Google groups. We're using Active Directory right now. So you can then granularly push out any app or resource by those particular groups as well. So that is really helpful too. Like if I needed to get 6th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade, and I just need those student groups, I could do it that way. So, Gail, anything else I forgot or you want to add?
No, I think you did a great job.
Okay.
So you're still using GADS for?
We do, yeah, yeah. So it's, so our Google is synced with our Active Directory, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But we struggled with how do we reset kids' Chromebook passwords. That is a big struggle for us. Because on the Chromebook, you can't reset it, like you can't just do Control-Delete and reset it through Active Directory. So
Yeah, does it work?
we do not. So we did have a Microsoft server set up to do that, but again, we decided not to go that route because ClassLink was able to meet those needs for us. All right, well, thanks everybody. You got a couple free minutes to take a break, and feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. I'm glad the demo worked so well because I was worried that there would be a lot of latency. Yeah.
Oh,
so
it was the ditching something. I'm going to ditch some ditching.
well, Jeff said he was going to go for a little bit, but
He's going.
he said he was. But
Yeah, I think.
you're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah. Tell Bob he owes me. Oh, really?
Oh, is this a payment? Well, I haven't heard anything yet. No, I mean, I haven't heard anything yet about it. No, I'm trying to, waiting to see if the axe is supposed to fall or whatever. I'm being fatalistic. I can't do it.
Lesson learned.
And Ross was already.